Greetings, everyone. Welcome to COS Today. This is January 19th, and we got the new year started off, Ken. Everything's going just so smoothly, right?
Just so smoothly, rock solid.
So smoothly, that's right. COS Today, we're saving the country with Convention of States. That's what we're trying to do here at COS Today. Tonight, we've got some very interesting things that we're going to be talking about. We've got a presentation on lessons from Rome. I think this is going to be very, very interesting to you. Got a region report on from one of our regions here in the country. Going to be touching on Greenland. Also, what's happening in Minnesota. Obviously, something is always happening anymore, it seems like, in Minnesota. And some of the things, especially the church, the most recent thing, that's going to be a hot topic tonight, too. A little bit about spirituality in America. Also, some big news from Convention of States in Idaho. So we got a lot of things to talk about tonight. So, Ken, let's, what do you say? Let's just get started and bring our guests on
jump right in.
For our In Focus group here. First guest is Miss Macy Gunnell. Am I pronouncing your name correctly still, Gunnell?
Yes, you got it right. Good job. You got it right.
Okay. All right. And Mr. Gary Harbaugh. Hi, Gary.
Hello.
Hi, Gary.
That hat, Gary's hats have been getting a lot of attention, haven't they, Ken?
Yeah. You know, I think he's been paying a lot of attention to Chris Stapleton lately. He's always got a different cowboy hat on.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah, I think that's where he's getting it from. Yeah.
And of course, Mr. Ken Whaley, and Ken out of the state of Idaho.
Evening all.
We're gonna be blessed with his presence in this segment, and then we bringing back for a whole nother segment to talk about lessons from Rome. So, Ken, you're going to be a big player tonight, aren't you?
It would appear so, yes. Excuse me. Hopefully my voice will hold up through that. A lot of travel.
You better hold it up, boy.
Yeah, I've got the hot coffee to keep it flowing and keep me awake. And
all right.
We'll do the best we can.
You don't have anything else in that coffee. Is it really coffee?
Just coffee. Absolutely.
Okay, just coffee. All right. Well, folks, in this segment, we call this the In Focus segment. In this segment, we each get an opportunity to talk about what has our focus, what is going on in the world that has our particular interest or our focus at this time. So let's start it off. Macy, let's let you start off and tell us what's got your focus.
Yes, well, liberals have shown us once again that there's not a single line they will not cross, at least in Minnesota. There's been so many things going on. There's so many funny memes I see online of, we can't go a single day without something crazy happening in Minnesota. And recently, something that's really caught my attention just happened yesterday is, like you mentioned earlier, these protesters storming this church in Minnesota. It's absolutely infuriating. As a Christian myself, at this point, I really don't feel like there's any safe spaces us Christian conservatives have left in this country, because we know that there's so many people watching, not only all across this country, but all across the entire world, as people have seen this protest unfold. Specifically, I want to take my time to make fun of Don Lemon, because that's my favorite thing to do. He and his disgraceful reporting, he's trying to claim immunity for his presence there as a journalist. But I also want to remind him that there were journalists there on January 6th at the Capitol, and the Biden administration prosecuted them. So it's very hypocritical for him to try to claim this immunity just because he was there trying to cover it. I think he's just as much a part of the problem, if not the main problem with this, because he's continued to spread this hateful rhetoric online against these ICE officials and against all of us good old patriotic conservatives across the nation who support all of these ICE initiatives. So it's been incredibly frustrating, and I hope that prosecution is taken to the fullest extent of the law, especially under the FACE Act. I join the rest of the pastors all across America and all the other Republicans in Congress who are calling for this, because it's incredibly infuriating. Because not only were these journalists prosecuted underneath this for January 6th, but there were also about 40 old ladies who were prosecuted under the Biden admin for protesting outside inside the abortion clinic as well. So I hope that we see the same amount of fury towards these absolutely insane atrocities happening in Minnesota. I hope that the DOJ continues to stick by what they've been doing already today, and I'm looking forward to seeing what can happen. I'm really hoping that the Trump admin can put in practice what they preach and actually prosecute these people and end this absolute insanity, because it's just embarrassing at this point.
You know, I've seen, of course, I've been watching this too, Macy, and this has got me all riled up as well. But I've seen some people interviewed today about this, and and people are especially this one person said, there's got to be a different way of handling this. We just can't let this all happen. There's got to be a different way of handling what ICE is trying to do. And what came to my mind was, the best thing I think that could be done is to hold some people accountable. Let's hold some people accountable. I think that would be the best thing that would go to correcting a lot of what's going on.
Well, a lot would also help if we got a little cooperation. Keep these bad hombres in jail, and it makes it a whole lot easier for ICE to go in and grab them. You don't have to be on the streets.
Yeah,
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
I hope if anything, this accelerates the ICE deportations going on in Minnesota. I hope that we can show these liberal idiots that anytime they continue to try to go about all these horrible atrocities, that they're going to get retaliated only with even more extended deportations and even more heinous prosecutions with the law against them. Because unfortunately, we have to make an example of them, because we cannot let this stand. We cannot let the world continue to see this embarrassment going on in Minnesota.
I wonder, given this church situation, I wonder if there's going to be more church security discussed amongst various churches now, and especially in that area. If you all recall, there have been some instances where churches, shooters would go into a church, and you remember? I recall one report. I don't know where it was. Maybe in Texas, I guess might have been, where there was a parishioner that had a weapon and shot the shooter. So I just wonder if there's going to be more security measures taken up by various churches.
I don't care what it is. Something needs to be done.
I think you'll have to see more security when you've got people they're showing people these people in the street with guns that are claiming to protect their neighborhood. This is it's really on the edge of civil war, if you ask me.
Yeah, on the church front, really starting probably at least 10 years ago, there's been a big push to increase security in churches, and most larger churches have some type of outside security, and most of the smaller churches have people, within the church, at least in Indiana, who are concealed carrying. So I think churches have become very keenly aware of their need for security.
Yeah, even here in Idaho, which about 1 out of every 4 people carry, it's a legal carry state without permit, etc. So anybody can carry, even concealed, assuming they legally can, carry a firearm. I know a number of people in our church that carry, even in church. Let's just say a bad guy wouldn't stand much chance walking into our gathering.
Yeah.
And I hate to think about things that way. You hate to think that a church could become a location of a firefight, but if it comes to protecting those that we care about, are absolutely, it's going to happen. And I agree. And Dale, that was in Texas, the one you were mentioning, and the gentleman was just standing by, an usher standing by. The kid took a weapon, and he just took care of business. Sad to see, but may come down to that. And I agree, KK or Ken Kashuba, sorry. The whole idea of civil war, just Those two words are said more and more and more all the time. And the whole idea of people saying, okay, well, I'm going to stand outside and protect my neighborhood. I think that gets in a real gray area when it comes to your rights with regards to a weapon, and just saying, I'm going to shoot somebody for coming in. That's a whole different thing altogether. So
Nobody's issued a badge there. Nobody's been issued a badge, and your carry is one thing. But yeah, to stand out there and say, I'm protecting my neighborhood, and particularly the threat is going out at ICE. So you're threatening a federal officer right at the get-go.
Yep. And that would not bear well for whoever decided they were going to go up against multiple individuals, exceptionally well trained with body armor, automatic weapons. No, it would not last long. That would be a bad thing.
Exactly. And I think the thing I want to add to what Macy's brought up here on this subject is, again, we're talking about these sanctuary states and sanctuary cities. And the thing that aggravates me at this point is this happened at this church, and where were the police? Where were the police? They never arrived. Did anybody dial 911? The police are there to separate these groups. So if you've got disagreeing groups on one side, the police are then generally in the middle to separate these groups, to keep a peaceful protest peaceful. So there's a lot that went on, wrong there for sure.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen as a result of that. That's for sure. All right. Thanks, Macy. Let's move on. Gary, what's on your mind, bud?
Well, interestingly enough, this is in some sense related, because in a way it has to do with church, although not necessarily. But one of the things I see that's not like grabbing headlines, but there was a recent Pew Research report about the rise of spirituality in America. And they reported about a 43% of U.S. adults have a growing spirituality, becoming more spiritual, versus a small, maybe 11% or so that see their spirituality decreasing. Spiritual related beliefs are extremely widely held in America. Something like 86% of people believe in the existence of an eternal soul. About 70% of people believe that they have a soul that will survive the death of their body and live beyond their life on this earth. And so this is something that really has run through the roots of America for a long time, went through a decline, probably starting maybe the 1960s, has reached its probably bottom and is starting to rise again. Interest in spirituality. A lot of this was kind of ignited, or the visibility of it was really ignited by the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Topic I'm sure is close to Macy's heart. And it's interestingly, being driven by Gen Z and that general age range, which today I'm going to stretch a little probably, but from roughly 13 to 30 is where we see a lot of the growth in the interest in spirituality. So it's not old guys like us, it's more like Macy and her generation that are igniting this revival of interest in spiritual things.
Macy, I want to bring you in on this too. I mean, Macy is the president of the Turning Point chapter at St. Mary's College. Am I saying that right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Are you seeing this rise in spirituality? Are you seeing that through Turning Point?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I hate to say that it took the assassination of Charlie, but I will say that is a fruit that's come of this. And I know that he's smiling down on us right now, watching all this happen, because we saw, especially the first weekend right after it happened, I mean, the church attendance increase exponentially across the entire nation. And we've seen this increased trend and interest in the Bible and faith and Christianity, which is absolutely amazing. And it's, well, you know, what a beautiful thing to come of such a tragic instance. So I hope that we see this continue to skyrocket. And luckily, groups like Turning Point themselves are really feeding into this and really, really igniting the fire even more through their sectors such as Turning Point USA Faith. So rest assured, I mean, there's plenty of resources and plenty of time going in and feeding into these students as this revival happens across the nation.
Good, good, good. Gary, go ahead. I'm sorry I didn't interrupt
Yeah,
you.
no, that's great. I mean, that is really where primarily we're seeing it aflame is in younger people. And, you know, I think that bodes very well for the future of our country to see this rising spirituality. People who have a sense of things with eternal importance and eternal value are much less likely to do stupid things. We might say, like, go protest in a church or engage in violence. A lot of the violence is really just purely destructive things, destroying the peace and peacefulness of neighborhoods and communities. And people who have a sense of spirituality kind of, I think, see the foolishness of those kinds of things and realize that that's really not something that's going to have eternal significance. But spirituality is much more likely to have a lasting impact. And so I think it's pretty exciting to see this happen. And I think it's one of the reasons that Convention of States is trying to connect with Turning Point chapters and people that are involved in Turning Point is because we realize that, that generation is the generation that's coming up and is more aflame and probably more aligned with a lot of the things that we are interested in than some of the people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, let's say.
But what are you going to see? What are you going to see in the media? You're going to see more in the media. You're going to see more about what's happening in Minnesota rather than the rise in spirituality, aren't you? I mean,
oh yeah. The media in America, I'm become convinced for probably at least the last 75 years has been very much managed by what I'm going to call the deep state. And the deep state, to my thinking, particularly wants to bring about conflict and amplify differences in people and not anything that unifies us. And spirituality is a tremendous unifying factor among people, across the political spectrum, across ideological spectrums. A faith can be a very uniting factor. And so, of course, the mainstream media is going to downplay it or not give emphasis to it.
Yeah.
Dale, I want to bring on a question that we've got in our chat in regards to some of the things we're talking about tonight. So I'll just go ahead and pull up here from A Korea. It says, does the panel think the Insurrection Act should be enacted?
Wow. Good question. I don't know.
Who wants to take a stab at that?
What happens with the Insurrection Act?
Well, I think it should be. I think it should be implemented. In light of this, what's going on in Minnesota is an insurrection against the enforcement of federal law, and people have a right to disagree, but they ought to be protesting in Washington, asking to have the law changed, not fighting against the enforcement of the law and fighting against the law enforcement officers who are carrying out the law. And so, maybe it would ramp up the situation and make it, more conflict. But I think it's something that probably ought to be done.
Now this would give the president the authority to send the military into, right?
I believe so. I haven't looked at the details of it, but I think it allows really treating these acts as more than just law enforcement matters.
Well, and it really has a parallel to January 6th, if you look at it. I mean, they were calling that an insurrection on the Capitol. And so this is I think similar. I think the things, the double-sidedness to this sometimes falls in the fact that I think the left wants to trigger Trump into doing this too, so they can have something else to squawk at. Yeah, he's full rights to do it, but I think this is how they operate. Trigger, and whenever they can get a response, then it's all Trump's fault. I think it's the same thing. I think it's the same thing when you have these people standing in the streets, getting in the way of vehicles. I think they're really looking for the next George Floyd. If they have another person go down, then they've got another person. It's another George Floyd moment, and they live on this George Floyd moments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Ken. I think it's a trigger thing. They're trying to push that. I think honestly, they want violence. They want that mayhem. And I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate here because, as I've said on the show previously, I'm a big states' rights guy. I mean, to me, our federal government is way overreaching on all fronts. Of course, that's a whole convention of states approach to things. That said, when states get out of control, the federal government still has to take action. So I'm torn on these things. The whole stuff in New York, California, Illinois, now Minnesota,
Right.
It's really pushing the boundaries of a lot of things. And so I try and give them as much leeway as I can, but Minnesota's pretty well out of control at this point.
And like you said, Ken, COS, we're big on state rights. I mean, that's a big part of us, what we believe in. So it is. But now the Insurrection Act was not implemented on January 6th, right?
I don't believe it was. No, sir.
No, I don't think so. They called it an insurrection, and that was the big word they like to use to make it seem like it was bigger than it was, in my opinion. But no, they did not. President did not implement the Insurrection Act.
But it has been implemented by past presidents, and I know I've heard it said when, but I don't recall, quite honestly.
It's been a number of times. It's been a number of times. I think Trump mentioned it the other day. I think it's been at least 7 or 8 presidents have used it. I think over time. Well, we're getting some comments on this. Let me go ahead and put this up because our guests are now commenting. 48 times is what it's been.
Wow.
Is what it's
48
been
times, really?
By one of our guests, yeah.
I'm thinking the most recent may have been over school desegregation in the 50s or 60s.
60, yeah.
When Eisenhower
Enacted in 1792. Okay.
That's from Jimmy Murphy. And one other question here. I want to
There's
throw
that
this
Jimmy
up.
Murphy again.
There's that Jimmy Murphy guy again.
Wherever Macy goes, Jimmy Murphy follows. I
can always
Get rid
depend
of
on
him.
some Googling by Jimmy there. So I had another comment that I'm not familiar with. Gary, maybe you know the answer to this one too. Is what is a false flag issue?
Well, a false flag is like a fake action that is designed to create a reaction. And
Gotcha.
I would argue that what's going on in Minnesota is not a false flag because it's not a false, this is not false riots taking place, false insurrection. But I think it's when something is claimed to be it's really created by the side that reacts to it. So you might say, this go way back in history, but in Germany, pre-World War II, the Reichstag fire, which many people think, Hitler had his minions set that fire so they could react to it and overreact to it. That's the sort of thing it is where one side creates some action that is supposedly against them so they can react to it and, take sometimes drastic action in response.
Interesting. Very good. Very good.
And Jimmy also does say that Section 252 of the Insurrection Act authorizes the president to deploy the militia or armed forces when unlawful obstructions render enforcement of federal law impracticable. That would apply in Minnesota, and he's correct there.
Yeah, sure would. Sure would.
Good job, Jimmy.
Get
Jimmy,
him
your
on instead of me.
fiance-
I don't know why I'm here. Get him on instead of me.
Jimmy's your fiance, right?
Yes.
Yes, I knew. I recall the connection there. Yes.
Connection. I love it.
So wherever Macy is, Jimmy's hanging around there. I think.
Well, you go, Jimmy. Keep up the good work.
Yeah,
All
keep
good.
up the good work.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Ken Whaley, what's up, guy?
Just real briefly, wanted to, earlier this last week, January 15th, Michael Ferris and Rita Peters from Convention Estates. Michael Ferris is actually co-founder for those that may not be familiar with Convention Estates. He and Mark Meckler started Convention Estates. They were both in the Idaho State Capitol this last Wednesday, again, January 15th. Had a chance to meet both of them. I had never met either one of them, so this was the first time for me. Michael both did, but Michael in particular gave about a 45-minute talk to what we're calling the grassroots folks, about 100 of us in the Lincoln Auditorium there. He got fired up about a lot of things, specifically, and I'll keep it narrowed to this, specifically about the debt. Just went over 38 trillion, if I remember correctly. I didn't look before, I should have. But mainly he was talking about how during COVID basically allowed the government just to go crazy, to spend so much money, increase the debt, do so many things that accentuated the debt issue for us. And his concern more than anything else now is the interest rate and having to pay off. I mean, he was saying that for some years now, it's been about 10% that we've been paying on that debt, and which is a massive amount of money. And now it has gone up. I believe he said 18. I don't have those numbers in front of me. I apologize. I did not look into that first. But long story short, that is a massive amount of money to add to our debt on interest alone, just to pay down the interest, not the debt itself. And he was very fired up about it. I am going to write about that on Wednesday's post on Restore First Principles. Sorry, Dale, shameless plug. But I wrote a lot of detail about that. And he said, yeah, by all means, do what I needed to do to get that information out. He's basically saying that we have about 3 to 5 years before our debt will overwhelm our system. He was initially 20 years plus. We had time to correct, but 3 to 5 years, even if, I won't go there, but long story short, that is not a lot of time to try and correct that. And basically 2 options. We either default on our debt, which basically brings the entire world down from a standpoint of the economy, since the dollar is the main, controller of that, so to speak, or massive cutbacks on all social programs, including Social Security. I mean, everything right down the line. Paying off the amount of debt we have is a very, very high bar to try and get under control. And the first thing we're going to do is stop the spending. If we don't do that, there's no way. And unfortunately, even the DOGE cuts in that barely scratch the surface, to be honest, on how bad that is.
Right. So Ken, do you think that we should really start acting pretty quickly with some of this tariff money coming in? I mean, a lot of that should in my mind go directly towards reducing our debt.
I agree. Absolutely. Make the interest payment kind of like I do on my mortgage payment. Make the interest payment and then immediately put more on capital loan. Amazing how fast that brings down the debt itself. Pay down the capital first. This whole talk about sending everybody $2,000.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I put that towards the debt. I couldn't use it. Lord knows that I could definitely use $2,000. I think we all
use
could
it too, but yeah.
Yeah. But you know what? Bigger picture. Got to save the country first. And I like a lot of things that Trump does, but I think he's kind of buying votes there with that. And that bothers me a little bit. It really does. He needs to put that money towards paying it down. Take all the tariff money until we get everything paid down. And to be honest, the debt will come back unless we either pass the Article 5 aspect of federal overreach and the spending, if we don't pay down the debt and or stop the spending, it'll just go right back up again. So got to take serious steps here.
Real quick, Michael Ferris story. I met him at the summit in September in Indianapolis, and of course heard him speak. And he was the closing speaker for the whole summit, and he spoke about why we're all concerned about being at 19 states. We got 19 states that have passed a resolution, and we can't seem to get beyond 19 states, and it seems to be taking such a long time. I'm gonna make this real short, but he was very instrumental in getting Roe versus Wade overturned. He was very instrumental in that process. And he told everybody, he said, now I want you to be aware of this, that whole process took 25 years for that to come about. And he said, when you think about that, we at Convention of States, we've been in existence, about 12 years or so. We're about halfway there. So that really stuck in my mind when he brought up that analogy, and I just thought I would throw that in. I'd never met him before, Ken, and I had the opportunity to meet him there at the summit.
Fascinating man. I enjoyed every second of talking with him, and I felt very. We had just finished lunch, and I said, I'm going to be a little bit aggressive here, and I moved right over and sat down in front of him and said, I want to talk to you about a given point. I won't go down that particular rabbit hole right now, but it's interesting how many, because I spend so much time online and reviewing social media and the like, how many people respond to posts or shorts or reels, whatever you want to call them, about COS, and how, well, nothing's happened for so long, you guys aren't doing any good. So that's a very, very poignant statement to make there about how long Roe versus Wade took to get turned around. And I agree. That's why, to me, this 3 to 5 year thing is really scary, because, the 3 to 5 years is just, even if we enacted it, all the rest of the states like this year, by the time all these things take place, we go through the entire process, it's going to be that 3 to 5 years. And I hate to sound negative, but that's a short time frame to make this happen.
Yeah. I would say that enormous financial problems ahead of us are already baked in the cake, and there is no avoiding them. It's just a matter of when they're going to become acute problems, I think. And 3 to 5 years is probably as good a guess as any.
Gary is going to be talking about our national debt here one of these days. He's supposedly working on a video for us on that topic. Do you know how much of our debt is owned by foreign countries? Just off the top of your...
It's I think it's only about 14% or so. And one of the interesting things about it is, as that has been trending down, because one of the mistakes that was made, and I don't remember if this was during Biden, or I think it was Biden did this, but after Russia invaded Ukraine, they cut off Russia from the SWIFT system, which is used for transferring money internationally. And they seized about $300 billion of Russian assets, and basically froze them and threatened to take them away. Well, when you do that, you might think, well, there's easy money to be taken, right? What we just told the other 180 some countries in the world, you better not hold your assets in the USA, because they might seize them. And so the holdings of U.S. Treasury debt has been trending down, particularly because of that, I think. And foreign countries that used to buy U.S. debt are more likely to buy, euros, or more and more countries are holding more gold. And so that trend of foreign ownership of U.S. debt is going down. And in a way, that's a big negative for America, because it means that we either have to, more of that has to be purchased by the U.S. Federal Reserve, which is very inflationary, or other other entities pick it up. So yeah, that's a topic for another day to
Yeah.
go into more detail.
All right. Well, we're getting down to last few minutes here on this segment, and Ken, I know. I think your topic was the Minnesota thing too, right?
Yeah, I just got a short comment, and then I got a segue for you to lead into yours because I know what you wanted to talk about there. But
Okay.
yeah, mine is just again looking at Minnesota. And you have to understand it's kind of like Illinois, where you have a large segment of the population that's in the rural aspects of Minnesota that are conservative people. You get to that Minneapolis, St. Paul area, and they just basically give the whole state a black eye. I think what the thing that just caught my attention was this little statement by the mayor the other day. Good old Mayor Fry. He said, and he was on a number of friendly outlets among many, and he explained that this is the winter of love. He had the summer of love, or we had the summer of love, and now we get to see the winter of love. And he said, I think it's important to tell the whole country that this is not just about resistance here in Minneapolis. It's about love. So they see this as loving one another's neighbor. Yet again, I don't have to go into too much explanation as to why there are people running rampant in the streets and the cause and effect that this causes when you force the law abiding people to have to chase down criminals that have been let loose in your city. If they had proper restraint, this would be a very easy acquisition to be able to have law go into the prisons and extract these people and deport them is what the American people have voted for. Yeah. So I say all that just to say that, here again, I mean, listen to this guy talk about love. Just tells you all you really need to know about the people that are running these places. And I think I heard an interesting thing, and this will be my segue to you, Dale. I heard there was an interesting conversation where they said, well, let's just swap Minnesota for Greenland. So there's your segue.
There you go. Well, Greenland is what has kind of caught my interest, along with Minnesota and all that's going on there. But this thing with Greenland is, I'm learning a lot more about this, quite honestly. Things that I'm picking up as this goes along. By the way, on next Monday is going to be our roundtable. And Greenland is the topic that we're going to be discussing. So we're going to be getting into this Greenland situation more and more. What caught my attention this week is how serious this is becoming, and I think I'm beginning to see Trump's tactic in any upcoming negotiation is he goes in full blast. He goes in with I guess it's the art of the deal. I've never read the book, but I understand. I think the first step is to propose everything at the very beginning, and then you negotiate from that point on. And I think that's what's happening here, where he's threatening military involvement, tariffs, all sorts of things here. I think this is all part of the negotiation process. But been struck, finally looked at the map, and I've been struck at how large Greenland is. I heard it compared 3 times the size of Texas. I did not realize it was that large of an island. But I can certainly understand the national security concern. This Golden Dome, I guess, it's a critical part of that process, that concept that's being worked on. So I don't know. It's going to be an interesting process to see. Yeah. Anybody got any thoughts on the Greenland situation?
Oh, absolutely. Imagine that. I know. I never fail to show up with my thoughts that way. I read a very interesting point, maybe a week and a half ago, and the guy that was making this point, don't remember where it was, to be honest, was talking about how when as a kid he played the game Risk. I don't know. Most of us here on the show today should remember that game, global domination game, for lack of a better way to put it. And he talked about the fact that when he was his neighborhood champion at it, and what he would always do was grab Alaska, Greenland, and Venezuela. Those are the three closest points to be able to invade or come at the United States from a land-based circumstance. And to be honest, Trump's making play on, we've had Alaska a long time now, since Seward's Folly, I believe it was called. And so that just always got me thinking, well, maybe there's something to that. Trump has made a long time, he's talked about Greenland being a key military point that way, and has been the case for a long time. Never thought about it with regards to Venezuela. Both those places also have a lot of natural resources, especially rare earth, gold, etc., and especially, of course, the oil in Venezuela. So to me, that kind of brings that whole thing into focus as to why both Greenland and Venezuela would be key points. Obviously, Venezuela's a little touchier circumstance, etc., but at least to my mind, that's gave a lot of understanding as to why his interest would be so heightened for those locations.
That's interesting. Yes. All right, guys. That time is up for this segment, and I want to. It's been very interesting again. I love doing this In Focus segment. It's always interesting. Everybody's got different things on their mind, and it always leads to some very, very good discussions. So I want to thank you all. Macy, Gary, Ken, both Kens. So hope to have you back again, please. And Ken Whaley, don't go away. We're going to take a little short break here and give you a little time to maybe get a drink of water or something, and we'll be bringing you right back on a presentation on lessons from Rome. So this ought to be very, very interesting too. Macy, Gary, thank you very much. Have a good evening. Bye.
Thank you, guys.
All right, Ken. Another good In Focus segment. Very good.
I thought so.
Hey, I'm going to play a little Marengo Mike reminder here. Forgot to do this earlier. And let me go ahead and play that. And let Marengo Mike, this is the new Marengo Mike reminder, everyone. So let's bring it on here. I promise I got it.
Programs? Please follow us and be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell so you'll always know when we're live. Now back to the show.
Boy, Ken, that's a fast one. You know it.
You wanted to keep it short and to the point, and Marengo said, "I'm gonna get the job done." Yep.
Okay. Yep. Well, I'm gonna play. I'm giving Ken even a little more time to gather himself together. This is one of our new features. And as a matter of fact, this is a feature that was created by Ken Whaley. And it's called Timeless Truths. And the young lady that presents this for us her name is Elizabeth. And in this one, she's going to be talking about the Article 5 process that we're all about here. So let's play that. Make sure I got the right one here, and we'll be right back here very shortly.
The Constitution provides two ways to propose amendments. One runs through Congress. The other, also using Article 5, runs through the states. If 2/3 of state legislatures agree, they can call a convention for one purpose only, proposing very specific amendments. The states also set the scope in advance. In the Convention of States model, that scope is limited to fiscal restraints, limits on federal power, and term limits. Nothing outside those topics can be considered. At the convention itself, each state gets one vote, and proposals must pass there before moving forward. And then, critically, nothing becomes law unless at least 3/4 of the states ratify it. That threshold is intentionally high, making radical or unpopular ideas virtually impossible to force through. Only then can the Constitution be changed. That's the design and the process of Article 5 as created by the founders.
Boy, Elizabeth is very good, isn't she?
Yep, she gets the job done just like Marengo. I don't know.
Yeah, just like Marengo. Okay. All right, let's bring Ken back on. He appears to be all refreshed and ready to go here. So let's bring Ken back on. We'll bring him on and talk about this. Ken not too long ago, we were talking about on another presentation that he was doing. And I don't know if you remember this, Ken, but you mentioned something about the fall of Rome. And I think you were at that time, you were giving making some comparison to some of the things happening in this country to the fall of Rome. And that really got my attention, because I've always felt like there were some similarities, oversimplification, I'm sure. But anyway, so that led me to ask you to maybe do a series here on our country compared to the fall of Rome. And so, folks, we decided to call it Lessons from Rome, and this is part 1. So, Ken, take it away.
Okay. Real quick background. That was when I was doing a presentation about Epstein and about the 2 layers or different aspects of law and accountability.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Justice. Absolutely.
Right.
And I brought up Rome because similar things happened then as the Republic aged, as it were, and got away from some of the things that made it into what it was, shall we say. Okay. So anyway, that led to this presentation today. So kind of, it's such a big aspect of things. It's hard to just dive into one key point, but for many people in today's world, Rome existed literally only as an empire. Okay, and everything I could find pointed in that direction. Basically emperors, their legions of soldiers, the marble statues, but absolute power across the board for their time. Largest entity in the world at that point in time. But that's not really how Rome actually began. I didn't realize this, and many people today don't realize this, that Rome actually began with kings. Shocked me. I had no idea about this till I started looking in depth for this series. But literally for nearly 2.5 centuries, to my understanding, was from 753 BC through 509 BC, power in Rome was concentrated in a single ruler. And yes, those kings ruled for life, like many across Europe did. Their authority was unified, very personal, and largely unchecked. What they said went. But by the end of that period, abuse was no longer theoretical. It was lived on a daily basis by everyday Roman citizens, as it often has happened in the history of kings throughout the world. But then when the last king was, the term I came up with was expelled. I won't go into detail about how that went on. Rome did something that was very rare in history. Matter of fact, it's only happened twice, and we'll get to that point. But it didn't replace the one ruler with another as it had for centuries. Instead, it took serious steps towards rejecting the kingship. And what followed was not chaos, it was all by design. And what history has shown us is that around 509 BC, the Romans created a republic. It wasn't accidental. It wasn't even gradual, but very deliberate. And they actually built a system meant to ensure that no one man would ever rule Rome again. Now, obviously, there were varying degrees of success with that, but that's on down the road for one of the later topics on this or discussions. So they did that by doing something that up until then, that should sound very similar or familiar to Americans. Power was divided, authority was shared, and offices were limited in time. So, and most importantly, no position was permanent and no individual was sovereign, i.e., no more kings, no more absolute rulers. So Rome had learned something the hard way, basically that unchecked power does not remain benevolent for long. Hence the whole aspect of kingship. Kingship, could that be right? Wrong term, but you get the idea. So interestingly, what the Romans created at that time appears to be very misunderstood by a lot of modern audiences. Rome didn't have a constitution in the way we think of ours here in the United States. There was no single bound document, but Rome absolutely had a constitutional system. It was a system of laws, offices and customs and expectations that together was designed to restrain power. Okay, they were tired of being ruled by a king. Authority was not only defined, but it was also constrained. No official ruled alone. No office was held indefinitely. And even Rome's highest magistrates served for limited terms and, most importantly, were expected to answer for their actions once those terms ended. So that wasn't a bureaucracy for its own sake. It was fear made practical is the best way I could describe what came about because of what the Roman people had been through for so long. So basically the Romans feared the return of kingship so deeply that they designed their system to make permanence nearly impossible. Power was intentionally split between competing offices. One man or office could block another. And most importantly, as far as I was concerned, decisions required deliberation, which of course caused delay. And the delay was not a flaw; it was actually a safeguard. In other words, if things took time, nothing could be rushed and pushed through. Should already be starting to sound familiar to the audience at this point. So public law mattered as well, of course, and you've got to understand that Rome's laws were not meant to be hidden or reserved for the elites. They were made visible, known, and shared. Authority was legitimate only when exercised within those publicly recognized limits. Now, most importantly, the system worked because the common people of Rome remembered why it existed. They remembered living under a king. So the Roman Republic depended less on enforcement than on memory of what they had gone through, the memory of tyranny and the memory of the abuses that they suffered. And on the memory of what happens when power is allowed to concentrate unchecked, as it had under the kings in Rome, or in Rome's early days, I should say. And I must say that for centuries, that memory held. Okay. See, Rome didn't become strong in spite of that restraint. It became strong because of it. Stability allowed for growth. Limits enabled trust. Civic responsibility actually flourished because power was never meant to belong to any one man. And very importantly, at least from my perspective in researching this, citizens understood that liberty was not the absence of authority, but the presence of the limits on that authority. So if you stop and think about it, that should really sound very familiar to those that are listening, about how, again, the correlations between Rome and the United States.
That's our Constitution, limits on authority, right?
Absolutely. The very heart and soul of it that way. So, and to that point, at its core, the United States didn't begin as a nation seeking novelty. They weren't looking for something. They were looking for something unique, but it began as a people rejecting empire in the same way that Rome had. Whether you believe it or not, the break from British rule was not simply about taxes and trade. It was about power that had drifted too far from consent and too far from restraint, and way, a long ways away from accountability. In other words, as a king, you rule everything. There's no accountability, right? So like Rome, the American founding was a response to the king and his overreach, as it were. A deliberate effort to divide authority, the limited duration, and prevent the return of tyranny, but under a different name, under our Constitution. So power was fragmented on purpose. Offices were constrained by time. Ambition was expected. That's human nature, and guarded against. At least, well, that was the plan anyway in the early days of things. And we got to understand that America's founders were not optimists about human nature to that very point. They didn't believe liberty could survive on goodwill alone. What they did believe was that power required restraint precisely because people were fallible. Okay, much like as what happened to the kings in Rome. And like Rome, the American system does not sustain itself automatically. Key point here. The Constitution can't defend the people that live under its guidance who no longer remember why it was created in the first place. Laws do not enforce their own meaning, and structures don't preserve themselves by habit alone. Rome didn't lose its republic in a single moment. It misplaced the memory that had once restrained it. That loss came first, and everything else followed. From everything I found, that was really the reason for the cause of the downfall of Rome. Is basically they just got away from what they were. They forgot about the rules and the troubles that they had under a king. Okay. Now we all know that for a long time Rome's system held. The republic endured not because it was perfect, but because it was respected. Power remained divided, offices remained temporary, and authority remained accountable. So Romans didn't assume their system was immortal, was the best word I could come up with. And I feel that I need to stress the fact that that assumption was very, very much mattered. Okay. But success has a way of changing how people think. You know, like I say, human frailty, for lack of a better way to put it. So as Rome expanded, the pressures mounted. The republic governed just a city at first, then a region, then a vast and growing territory, for its time the largest in the world of any controlling entity, for lack of a better way. So decisions became a lot more complex as a result of that. Threats were more distant. When you're talking things 1,000 miles away in those days, took weeks for word to get back and forth one way or another about things that were going on. So time became significantly more precious. So what once felt prudent suddenly began to feel terribly slow. And while the limits were still there, patience with them began to thin. Now, at first, nothing was broken. Procedures were followed. Offices remained intact. The language of the republic was still spoken, but something subtle began to shift beneath the surface. Efficiencies began to compete with restraint. So what had once been seen as protection began to feel like friction. Safeguards were no longer understood as defenses against tyranny, but as obstacles to actions. So the question quietly changed from should we to why not? So emergencies, we've all heard this before, as in COVID, became more frequent, or at least more frequently declared. Temporary powers were extended not because Rome law demanded it, but because circumstances seemed to require it. And as time went on, each expectation was justified on its own terms, and each was framed as reasonable, necessary, and even responsible.
This is starting to sound a little familiar, quite honestly.
Well, I think that was the idea, right?
Yeah.
It literally scared me as I dug into this and really narrowed this down, how familiar it should be sounding to anybody listening to what I'm saying.
Yes.
And of course, because Rome still remembered its past, at least faintly, those measures didn't feel dangerous. They felt practical. Again, sounds very familiar. And of course,
that's why I wanted to talk about this.
Absolutely.
Keep going. This is very good. Very good.
No worries. So of course, that's kind of how forgetting begins. No one wakes up one day and decides limits no longer matter. First, those limits are reinterpreted. They're reframed, treated as tools rather than protections as they started out as. And once that happens, the question again quietly changes. It's no longer, why does this limit exist? It becomes, why shouldn't we bypass it just this once? Think COVID. I mean, right to the heart of it, right to COVID explains all of this very thoroughly. So we've also got to remember that Rome didn't abandon its constitution. It continued to honor it in form. Offices were still filled, titles were still respected, and laws cited, but the real memory of how they'd gotten to where they were was fading. Time does that to human nature and new generations. Think about the kids in the generations now that look at a dial telephone and go, "What's that?" Very simple analogy of it, but it really does express the same idea. We forget about things that worked for us at one point in time,
especially if they're not taught, if they're no longer taught, right?
Absolutely. And that I was actually going to get into that in the next segment on this, but you're absolutely correct. And that's, well, I shouldn't go there. It'll totally get me off track, but your point is very well made, sir. Absolutely. So we've got to remember that the Roman Republic had been designed around a specific fear, the return of tyranny, of kings. But generations had passed since those kings ruled Rome. Few living Romans had actually experienced that reality firsthand, again, to the point we were just making. So what had once been a warning became a story, and then a tradition, and then a formality. Yeah, it happened way back. It really doesn't apply today, which we hear all the time out of a certain segment of our society, shall we say.
Oh, yes.
The Constitution doesn't apply anymore.
Right.
So, and of course, as those memories faded, restraint felt less urgent. Power began to be judged by outcomes rather than by the limits imposed by their constitutional republic. Leaders were praised for results, not for adherence to those established processes. Exceptional authority was no longer alarming so long as it appeared to be effective. So the Roman Republic still existed, but it was being used differently. And I absolutely have to say that the distinction really does matter. And I think both you gentlemen and hopefully the entire audience is feeling that as well. So what becomes clear is that Rome didn't collapse because its laws vanished. It collapsed because those laws lost their meaning. And the point is that when procedures are followed without understanding, they become hollow. When offices are respected without restraint, they become dangerous. So at this stage of things, nothing appears to be broken in the Roman Empire. They're chugging along, doing what they do. But in fact, many things appear to be working. In fact, rather, many things appeared to be working better than they were before. Decisions were faster, problems are addressed decisively, and authority feels very reassuring. But the cost of that was very invisible until, of course, it isn't. And ultimately, what Rome teaches us is that forgetting always comes before breaking. Memory erodes quietly, responsibility shifts subtly, and power expands naturally into the space left unguarded. And as I certainly hope all those listening realize, this pattern is not unique to Rome. It's only happened twice, but yeah, without getting sidetracked again. So the American founding followed a remarkably similar logic, though separated by centuries and a lot of varying circumstances. Founders studied history very carefully because they understood that the problem was not geography or culture, but human nature. So much of what our Constitution was built around was to control the inevitability of human nature doing what we as humans do. So they didn't see tyranny as the work of evil men. They understood it to be the result of unchecked power and, more importantly, of citizens who no longer guarded against it. So like Rome, the American system was designed deliberately. Authority was divided, offices were limited, power constrained, not because leaders were distrusted, but because permanence was. So they were obviously trying to avoid that. And like Rome, that system depends on more than written law. So it has to be understood that a constitution can't enforce itself. It relies on the people who understand why it exists, and that understanding and remembering what it was designed to prevent. And most importantly, a people who value restraint even when it slows them down. A lot of people talk about Congress not moving. Sometimes I wonder, well, that's a bit self-defeating. That's the idea, is to keep that restraint in place. So that memory, yes, that memory that existed in Rome is the first line of defense, remembering what we came from to get to where we are now. But when that memory fades, something else changes. Citizens become less vigilant. Responsibility drifts upwards. In other words, the power, like we've seen, becomes more and more at the federal level and not at the state level. Politics becomes something observed rather than practiced. And ultimately, power becomes something to manage outcomes rather than something carefully restrained. So at this stage, this isn't really corruption, not yet, but it is disengagement. And I think that America has to remember that Rome didn't lose its republic because citizens wanted tyranny. They lost it because they no longer felt personally responsible for preserving it. And once responsibility is outsourced, power consolidates, not by force, but by invitation, through lack of engagement. The hard truth is that by the time Rome reached the point where law was no longer bound all equally, the republic itself was already gone in spirit. And what followed was not a sudden collapse, but a simple confirmation of what had already been lost. And that's why memory matters more than mechanics. You see, structures can survive neglect for a long time, and laws can persist after belief in them fades. But once the reason for restraint is forgotten, no system, however well designed, can hold indefinitely. So the lesson of Rome isn't that republics are fragile, it's that they are demanding, very demanding of the citizenry. Rome forgot that. I feel like we are as well. But yeah, they require active remembrance, civic responsibility, and even more importantly, a shared understanding that limits exist not to frustrate power, but to protect our liberties. As they
Ken, you're getting me scared here now. I mean, this sounds so familiar.
It's very scary, and you know, Dale, I as I was studying this and researching this, I felt the same way. I kept thinking there must be something I'm missing here, something about, you know, the invasion by this or whatever. It couldn't be this similar, but the parallels are so specific between the fall of the Roman Empire, which took hundreds of years, and where we are right now, and how similar we are in the sense of what's taking place with it that way. So yeah. So
you kind of wrap it up here. We're
absolutely.
Absolutely.
So my point with all of this really is to state clearly that once limits are treated as inconveniences instead of protections, power no longer needs to seize authority. It's literally handed to it. And that's really what we're doing with our federal government now, because the citizens as a whole don't vote, don't get involved, don't take an active responsibility of being part. So that leaves us with a question worth a lot of deep contemplation. I'll wrap with this. If we, the people, forget why our republic's limits exist, what happens next to our sense of responsibility? And that, of course, is what I'll strive to answer next time around for us.
It's frightening, but very, very good.
Excellent.
Ken. Very good.
Yep.
You agree, Ken?
Excellent.
KK?
Yep.
That's why I wanted Ken to do this series. This is something I think that we should all pay closer attention to. What's happening with us here?
I had read something about that years ago about similarities, you know, in the fall of Rome and how we need to be careful. And Ken, you really would get into the depth of that, and it explains it. You know, like Dale said, it's scary to how parallel everything is.
One quick question before we end this. When we talk about the fall of Rome, we're not talking about just a city, are we? We're talking about are we talking about a large geographic part of the world at that time, or
absolutely the case. Of the known world, of course, America, the Americas as a
Right.
whole were not known to anybody in
Right.
Europe. So literally the known world, the Roman Empire, and I don't have a percentage, but I'd be willing to guess it was 40 to 50% of the known world that they controlled
Oh,
at
really?
that point.
That much? Okay.
Everything from Great Britain, North Africa, all the way into the areas that are now Pakistan and even into India.
My
So
goodness. My goodness.
huge area, massive.
Yeah.
And of course, the bigger you are, the harder it is to control.
Right. Right. Okay. Ken, thank you very much. Thank you, bud.
Absolutely.
Have a good evening. Have a good evening. Looking
Thank you.
forward to part number 2.
Yeah.
This is going to be
Getting it
very
worked on.
interesting. All righty. Thanks. Boy, that was good. That was good, Ken. Wow.
Yep.
Like I said, frightening, but that was good.
Yeah. I mean,
A lot
it
of
shows it shows how much we really should be paying much more attention to our history instead of trying to erase it all.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to the next segment here. This next segment is another one of our region reports. This is with a regional director, Haley Shaw, Northeast Patriots region. And I caught up with her the other day, and we recorded this report from her. So let me bring that on, and we'll be right back when we're finished with this. Hey everyone, let's get right to our next region report with Miss Haley Shaw. Let me bring Haley on right now. Hi, Haley.
Hi, Dale. How you doing?
Good. I called you Miss Haley Shaw. Are you Mrs. or?
I'm Miss Haley Shaw.
You are Miss. I was
Yeah.
right. Okay. Well, Haley, thank you for coming on. You're regional director of, am I got it right here, the Northeast Patriots region?
Yep, that's correct. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Let's throw that up here so everybody, well, no, that's not it. Tell me, what states are involved in your region?
You got it. So up here in the Northeast Patriots region, we have 7 states. Let's see if I can remember them all. We've got Connecticut, Massachusetts, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Rhode Island, and New York.
Oh, well, there's nothing going on in that part of the country
Not
at
at
all.
all. Definitely not.
Pretty calm, I guess, isn't it?
Super quiet. Yeah. Super boring for sure.
Yeah, for sure. My goodness, what a handful you got there.
Absolutely.
My goodness. Well, I like to ask Haley, and I'll flash this up. Do you have any past states versus in-play states in your region?
I have no past states in my region. I only have in play. Only in play here.
Okay, now for the sake of our viewers, this is kind of a COS jargon, I guess. We should explain this. A past state would be a state that has passed our resolution, all right, calling for a convention of states. And we've got, I guess, are we officially at 20 now? Has Kansas?
We're still officially at 19.
19 now? Okay.
Yeah. Hopefully, in the next month we get 20, but at this point we're still at that number 19.
Okay. All right. Well, we're all that's a topic within convention of states.
No doubt.
How are we gonna get beyond 19?
Well, I think once we get to that 20th state, I think that's going to start to have some dominoes fall with some other states as well. So
let's hope so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, because we got to get to 34. So
yeah, absolutely. And up here, I think one of those 34 states is going to be New Hampshire.
Is it? You think so, huh?
I think so. We've been working really hard. Yeah, we're nonpartisan, as everybody knows, but up here in New Hampshire, we have a Republican Senate and a Republican House. So we've got a good chance. Our biggest challenge in New Hampshire is that the House is 400 seats. So 400 members of the House in this little state of New Hampshire. And then we have 24 in the Senate. So we've got a team that has to try to reach 424 people and get them to understand Article 5.
Now, do you have some history? Have you come close to doing this in the past? so many states have that has occurred in so many states.
Right.
Is
Yeah.
New Hampshire one of them?
Yeah, I mean, in the past, and this is before my time here, but I do believe we passed it in the House once. This go around for us, we're starting in the Senate, which is new for us. We've never started in the Senate,
Okay.
but that's 24 members, and we're pretty excited with the possibility of passing in the Senate this year. So that's been the big focus of the team, is to hopefully try to do that this year.
So, but you say it has passed in the House before.
Years ago. Yeah, years ago. And then of recent, last year, we passed out of committee. We made it to the floor, and then it was tabled.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Frustrating.
Yes, yes. Well, Haley, tell me, tell our viewers, and especially anyone that may be viewing from your region, from your area, how to join COS and why you think they should join Convention of States.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the easiest thing to do to join us is to go to Convention of States, the Take Action page and put in an application of sorts, and I'll have one of our team members contact you. We need more people here. We know that there's a lot of American-loving patriots up here in the Northeast, even though you might not think we exist, but we do
even
exist
in New
up
York.
here.
Do you think there's a lot of them even in New York?
There's a ton in New York, and
Really?
I think they're all looking for something to do and find some people that love this country as well. And I think that's why you should join Convention of States, even up here, in the Northeast. Because a lot of you probably feel like you don't know anyone or can talk to anybody that, is aligned with you. And that's just not the case. There's a lot of people, and we really love the country. And there's a group of people that are just looking for more patriots and more American loving people to join their teams and just, get the word out about Convention of States.
I certainly think it's got to be becoming more and more evident that Washington, D.C. is not going to fix things. It's just not going to happen.
No.
And it's going to be up to the states. It's going to be up to we the people.
It sure feels like it. I mean, every day, you kind of just say to yourself, what are they doing? And it really, honestly, it doesn't matter what party is in office. It is just sort of the DC and the rest of the country. And I really do believe that the states have an amazing opportunity, and they just need a push and some confidence that they can do it.
Yeah, I agree. Now, you mentioned about you go to COS conventionofstates.com and fill out the application. Look up in the menu selection up there for get involved, and fill out an application, register. And do you have a good team of members, people throughout your states that do follow up, that contact
Absolutely.
people?
Yeah. We'll get in contact with you really quickly because all of my teams are always looking for more people to join the fun up here. But we're always looking for more people to help. So you should get in. Someone should be calling you once you get that application in ASAP within a day or so. So definitely.
Good. Speaking of needing people, do you have specific needs? Obviously, joining Convention of States is the first step, and that's the important step, obviously. But we would like for you to take another step, maybe, and volunteer for something. Are you looking for do you have specific needs in your region? Is what I'm leading up to, I guess.
Yeah. We're just looking for more people. All roles we're looking for, but we just need more people, more boots on the ground, just more help up here. We have great teams and really passionate people, but we could just use more of them just to get the job done. Yeah.
It's growing the grassroots. We always want to
absolutely. Yeah.
get more people in.
Yeah, we'd love to have more district captains to fill that, role of being, I like to call them the mayor of a community, and just sort of be that key point person. It's not hard. I think some people read the description and they go, "Oh, I can't do that." But it's really not that hard if you, can talk to people, and, you can give some time, a little bit of time a week. You could be a great district captain.
That does seem that I've been in convention of states, I don't know now, 10 years or so, and the district captain was the most important position, quite honestly, in the field at that time, and I think it still is.
Oh yeah, I got my start as a district captain for sure. I mean, I started as that, and I'll admit I was a little afraid at first, but there's so many tools to help you. And I was living in Massachusetts at the time, and I really just had a great team that mentored me and gave me some more confidence. And before you know it, you're having local meetings and you're talking to people and making phone calls. It's really not that hard.
Yeah. How long have you been in convention of states, Haley?
I got started in 2020.
2020, okay.
Yeah, it's funny. I had signed the petition years ago, and I don't even remember when.
Is that right? Really?
Yeah, I think when I look at my profile, it said 2015. I don't even remember where I heard about it. But in 2020 or in late 2019, Mark Meckler came to the Boston area. And I went to hear him live, and in true Mark Meckler fashion, he makes you, feel like, yeah, I got to get involved with this. And after that, I filled out an application to be a volunteer, and someone got in touch with me, and all of a sudden I'm doing some trainings and I'm on a Zoom call with some great people, and the rest is history.
Yeah, that's generally the way it works.
Yeah.
Are you from the Boston area?
Not at all. No, I'm originally from Colorado.
Oh, really?
I've been kind of all over. I grew up in Colorado. I went to college in the Midwest. I did a little bit of time in California, and then I moved to Boston.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Well, we need a whole nother segment, I think, to cover all that. My goodness.
Biography, but I've seen a lot of the country, and I love this country, and I got tired of complaining. And I said to myself, I guess I have to do something. And I'd never volunteered for anything before, but I just said, well, I can't keep being upset, and I can't keep complaining. And so I thought, or I still know, that Convention of States is the solution to at least try to fix, the problems that we have. And so I've been involved since 2020. So
Mark Meckler, our CEO, was kind of the person that inspired you.
Definitely, yeah.
To get involved,
yeah, for sure.
It was Mark Levin was my inspiration.
Yeah,
and I think he's inspired a great many of the people in Convention of States, especially the ones that have been in for many years.
Yeah.
He was the one that I got my inspiration from. So, well, Haley, tell us about. I know this is something that's kind of basic to Convention of States, and that's servant leadership and our core values.
Yep.
You want to talk about how do you apply those in your region? And for viewers that may not know about this, you want to address this. This is kind of basic to what we're all about, I think. So.
Well, I really believe that my role as a regional director is to serve the grassroots and to make sure that they have the comfort and the confidence to get out there and know that they're appreciated as well. I've taken servant leadership a couple of times, actually, and I feel like every time I learn something. And I really love the training, or the sort of the examples they give, especially of historical ones. But more than anything, I really hope that my teams feel that or see that too. But I put their needs ahead of mine. And I just always want to make sure that, I'm just working for them and helping them out in any way I can, because we do have a country to save.
There you go. Servant leadership is basically from the bottom up, not
Correct.
top
Absolutely.
down.
Bottom up, not top down. And that's been an interesting one. You know, I come from the corporate world where you definitely feel like it's top down.
Right.
And
Most certainly.
and people always talk about core values, but nobody ever really talks about the idea of servant leadership. And so, yeah, making sure that their needs are met first.
Good. And I think our core values are very important as an organization.
Yeah.
And so I think those are important for people to understand as well. Yeah. Well, tell me, in your region, let me see. I want to get to my notes here. Tell me, what are there some specific legislative issues that you're dealing with, other than, of course, passing the resolution?
Sure.
But are there other specific legislative issues that your region has been focusing on?
I mean, really for us, it's two things. It's the Article 5 resolution and it's the 34 ready commissioner selection. And in fact, this coming Tuesday, so I think this will air in time, or not Tuesday, Wednesday, the Maine team will have a committee hearing for 34 ready. And that's the first time that we've introduced that into Maine. On my team in New York, this is their second year of working on 34 ready in the state of New York, which is a real challenging state to work with. We've filed the Article 5 application for years. We've never had a committee hearing in New York, which is very frustrating for the team, but they're very persistent. And so we've done a pivot this year and last year, and we've gone with the 34 ready. To try to, ease some fears about Article 5. And if we can focus on who goes from, each state and how many people they send and help people realize that it is state by state. And that's the part where each state gets to decide how many people they send and that whole process. So we're really trying to hopefully ease some fears and get them to really think about, when a convention is called, are these states ready? And so that's two states. All the other states, Vermont, we had legislation last year that carries over this year for Article 5. New Hampshire, we're focused on the Article 5. Connecticut, this is a great one. Last year, we finally were able to have our Article 5 resolution filed. So they finally became the 50th state to file the resolution.
Oh, really?
It wasn't because they hadn't been trying, but in Connecticut, they do something called a concept bill, where you file the concept and then you fill in the language later. That's a challenge when we want 50 states to have the exact same language in an application. So finally, we were able to find a representative that got us filed. So we can now say we have all 50 states filed. That was a really frustrating one for the Connecticut team that's called the Constitution state, and they hadn't been able to file that yet. So that was a huge milestone for them. But those are the big things that the teams are working on. I mean, there's a lot of issues in all of our states, but the ones that everybody's really focused on is the Article 5 or 34 ready.
I would be remiss to not ask you, what's the plan for New York? Do you have a strong team in New York?
We do have a strong team. Yeah, we do have a strong team, and we have had a historically strong team. For New York, we just need more people. I mean, we need people in, the city area. So New York City and the boroughs, and we need stronger teams just outside of the city. And we just need more boots on the ground and more manpower. We have amazing manpower right now. We just need more. And I think the big thing that we can do in New York is just build awareness. I think there's so many people that have just, with things going on, given up hope. And we've got to find those people that still love the country and believe that we can do it. And hopefully, if anything, if we can educate more people, that's just more people that are, ready with knowledge. But yeah, New York is a challenging state.
I'm just thinking in COS, we ought to become more aware of the team that you do have in New York, and especially in New York City. And I want to use California as an example that I know everybody thinks, "Oh, California is a lost cause." You know, we're so behind times there. But we actually have a very strong team in
Yes.
California.
Yep.
In COS. And my guess is you've got a strong team in New York too.
I have a strong team, absolutely. And a passionate team, right?
Yes.
And that's huge. And I have a team that's not afraid to go talk to legislators and encourage them to pass this. So that's one of the things the team in New York does really well.
Well, good for them. I tell you, they got they got their work cut out for them.
A lot of my states have their work cut out for them.
Yeah.
You know, Massachusetts, a lot of people don't realize just how crazy the state of Massachusetts is. And that's another one of my strong teams. And that team actually a couple of years ago was voted or selected as team of the year. So there are states where it might seem like a challenge to pass it, but they're persistent. And that's a great team in Massachusetts as well.
Good deal. Well, finally here, Haley, can I give people, can we give out your email address here in case someone wants to contact you? And of course, you'll put them in contact with the appropriate person. But can I put your email
Please.
address up here?
Absolutely. It is HSHAW at cosaction.com.
H?
Nope. HSHAW.
Oh.
H Shaw.
H Shaw.
At cosaction.com.
COS. I should have done this before we started here, but I forgot to do it. But I think I got it right. You tell me if I have it right here. Okay. I'll have it here in just a second. There we go.
You got it.
That's
COSaction.com. That's how to find me. Yep. Don't hesitate to reach out, please. We'd love to connect with you up here in New England.
Great. And so, folks, drop Haley an email here, and she will either respond or get you connected with the right person. And come on, if you live in New York, come on. We need that.
Yep.
We need the help.
We need help. All of the states up here. Like I said, there's 7. We want you. We need your help.
All right, good. Haley, I want to thank you very much for coming on and telling us about the Northeast Patriots region. Yep. And I want to wish you all the luck in the world. And thank you very much for 2026.
2026. Thank you, Dale. Thank you so much for the invitation. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Haley. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks. You too. Bye.
Bye-bye. Well, folks, that wraps up another of our region reports. And I think that's the third one we've done now. And we've got a few more to go. So stay tuned and we'll be getting another one in line, certainly for the month of February. So that'll be it. Everyone, have a good evening. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Good report.
It was good. Haley's a very nice young lady. So
yep.
Hope she's doing a very good job.
Dedicated and hardworking. Yep.
I think in February, we've got Deanna Beckett coming on with her region. And so that'll be, I believe that is out west.
Yeah, we just had Deanna on last week, and
yeah, she was on in the In Focus segment last.
Yeah, promoting her book. So yeah, it'd be good to get her back and talking.
Yeah,
about
she's right. She's introducing a book here very shortly in February, as a matter of fact. Yeah. Yep. So that'll be interesting to talk about too. Well, let's Ken, let's move on. Once again, let's bring on a Dave's Daily Dose. This is a feature that we've been doing for some weeks now. And this is done by David Punt out of Minnesota, as a matter of fact.
Of all places. Mm-hmm.
Of all places, right. So let's see what Dave has on his mind this week. Dave's Daily Dose.
Hey, I know one of their guys. Their guys who has started an indivisible something or something. Usually these clubs form up and call themselves Indivisible and then the name of the city or county or neighborhood. Renee Good might have been a member of the Indivisible Twin Cities while she was alive, and now she's dead. If someone, a family member, is looking for deep pockets to sue into next week, here's the organization for them: George Soros Open Society Foundation. The Indivisible Project of Washington, D.C., according to the New York Post, got 7.8 million buckaroonies from them last year. And if they've got 7.8 million to throw around, they've got more. This is Dave's Daily Dose on BrokenRoadRadio.com. I'm David Allen Punt. The group with the money is called Progressive, like the insurance, which sort of makes sense, assigning that word to your company, suggesting that you're moving forward, inventing new stuff, making new money for your subscribers. Is it progressive to fight back against law enforcement's attempts to clean up the neighborhood? What's progressive, forward-looking, forward-moving about preventing law enforcement from doing its job? In this case, getting illegal aliens out of the country. Wouldn't you say that getting illegal aliens out was progressive, forward-looking, forward-moving, by making the country a better place to be, stronger, more capable, richer, more prosperous? Wouldn't you say that making our towns and cities more safe and secure was progressive? I would. If I get a chance in the near future, if I run into some of these local folks who were involved in the No Kings poster making standing on street corners activity last year, I'll ask them the progressive question for sure. If they think that blocking sidewalk traffic and waving their hands and arms at passing motorists is somehow progressive, and what progress looks like. I'll ask them if they know the money came from Soros, and if that sounds like progress to them. The Hilton folks came down hard on one of their affiliated Minneapolis area hotels when they canceled law enforcement reservations. They canceled the franchise, which would be worth $1 or $2, and that sounds like progress or progressive. A Marriott hotel employee recently docked some law enforcement officers, and he or she was quickly fired. That sounds like progress or progressive. Someone had put up a letter in a Minneapolis McDonald's moaning and groaning about law enforcement picking on their beloved illegal aliens. McDonald's HQ had them take the poster down or lose the franchise. That sounds a lot like progress or very progressive. Maybe being progressive doesn't have to be a bad word. I'm David Allen Punt.
Well, you can always count on David for some thought, can't you?
Oh, yeah. He's usually right on target.
Yeah, he usually is.
Yeah.
Well, you know, Ken, we earlier, of course, we were talking about the situation in Minnesota and ICE. And, you know, and this past week, I thought, you know, I think we need to sometimes step back and, you know, and especially when it comes to ICE, and put them in perspective. In other words, what's the intent? What's their purpose? What are they trying to do? How are they doing it, and why? And so I took a little time and I put together a little short presentation on ICE, and so I want to play that right now. Hopefully, this will kind of, you know, bring everybody back to the original intent here, what ICE is about. So anyway, let me play this. You might have to adjust your volume a little bit, but we'll see how it looks here. Greetings, everyone. With all the protesting going on with regard to ICE, I thought it would be nice to just take some time and let's talk about what the law really allows, what actually happens, and what is documented with regard to ICE. Legally, what is ICE legally allowed to do? Under U.S. law, ICE enforces civil immigration statutes that apply only to non-citizens. ICE has no lawful authority to arrest or deport U.S. citizens based solely on immigration status. Do mistakes happen? Yes. Although prohibited by policy, mistaken detentions of U.S. citizens have occurred. These cases usually stem from misidentification, database errors, or lack of immediate documentation. Documented sources. The Government Accountability Office has documented that ICE and CBP historically failed to consistently identify U.S. citizens in custody, leading to some wrongful detentions. Have citizens been deported? Historically, documented, but extremely rare, considered serious government errors. GAO confirms some past cases. Now, this is a big one. Family disruption explained. Family disruption most often occurs when a non-citizen parent is deported while their children remain U.S. citizens. Of course, this is under consideration in the Supreme Court now about citizenship. This is lawful under current statutes, but socially certainly controversial. The media focus, public claims, yes, claims that ICE is broadly arresting U.S. citizens are misleading. However, isolated, documented errors and emotional family consequences do fuel public concern and protest activity. The bottom line here is ICE does not lawfully target citizens. Mistakes do occur, but are uncommon. And family disruption is real, but legally permitted. So I hope that gives you a little bit sense of what ICE is about and what they're trying to do. In other words, kind of put ICE in perspective, given all the protesting that's going on and media attention right now. All right. And I want to say thank you very much. Have a good day. Well, I hope that helped. Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. The question I would have, Dale, would be, where was all this concern when we were dumping millions and millions of unidentified people into the country, hundreds of thousands of children, which we have no. I think that the amount that was even aware of where the whereabouts were was totally not existent. So where was all the concern then? It just baffles me that suddenly it's the big concern now. I saw an interesting clip tonight on TV before we came on tonight, and it was an ICE agent who stopped, rolled down his window, and apparently there was a mom or somebody there who was, frantically shouting and giving the finger and telling ICE where they needed to go. And he simply looked at her and said, "Ma'am, we are on a case to find and arrest a sexual predator who has sexually raped a child. And why would you stand in the way of that?" And he basically looked at her and just said, "Insane," rolled up his window and drove on. And it's really as simple as that to some of these people. It's asking them the question, where's your concern for the Americans, or even the immigrant child who's been just dumped into the country, with all these criminal abuses going on. It is hard to explain and understand. And your explanation of ICE and the purpose for ICE is there, but it really is difficult to understand the mindset of these people that really. And again, these are being called protests, Dale. But I think it was evident with the church happening today. These aren't protests; these are mobs. It's a mob mentality.
Yeah,
and it really is pretty disgusting, in my opinion.
it is. It is. All right. Let's move on here, Ken.
Mhm.
I just want to remind everybody that COS today, we're trying to address today's issues through the COS perspective. And once in a while, we will come on and explain what we mean by the COS perspective. But for right now, just want to remind everybody of that fact. And once again, if you want to find us to view our broadcast, the easiest way is to search for our YouTube site, American Patriots for Convention of States. American Patriots for Convention of States. And if you find the YouTube site, there you can see our live broadcast as well as past broadcasts. So that's the best way to find us if you want to view our broadcast.
And that link has been put in the chat, Dale.
Okay. All right. Also want to remind you that if you have any questions or comments about today's broadcast, drop us an email at raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. Well, Ken, I think, let me get back there and remove that banner. Okay.
All right.
Any other comments or questions from viewers that we need to take a look at real quick, Ken, before we close down here?
There was a number of comments that were all based around the In Focus segment. I know I will put up a collection. I know this one gentleman had said that when we were talking about the amount of times that the insurrection had been done, and he corrected himself by saying it was 30 times, not 48, which he originally had posted. So I want to put that correction up there.
Okay.
He also had mentioned that if he enables the Insurrection Act, they have an opportunity to grab the narrative. That was some of the opinions of the people in the chat. Talking about the insurrection claim that could be done. So those were the majority of those. I know we had quite a good banter on those early In Focus segments. So
okay, good. Well, before I bring Marengo Mike on here to close out, according to my phone, the score's 3-0 IU. So,
I'm a little surprised, 3-0.
Yeah.
It's kind of low, but
second quarter, 10 minutes left in the second quarter.
Still early. I think I had heard a number of people say it was going to be close. So interesting.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Okay. Let's bring on Marengo Mike here and we'll say goodnight to everyone. Mm-hmm. Now, once again, our next broadcast is next Monday, the 26th, and that's going to be the round table where we're going to be discussing Greenland. So ought to be a very interesting panel discussion, I would think. So, all right, Ken, thanks a lot, bud.
All right, go IU.
See you. Yay.
Marengo Mike here with a reminder of the importance of this year as we continue to grow the grassroots army of volunteers and the mission of using the Constitution to fix the ills of our government.